fortunate with the Royal Pavilion Museums to receive large amounts of funding from the Arts Council's Renaissance in the Regions programme. And part of our funding at the moment is for digital projects working with young people. And one thing I'm particularly interested in is the use of storytelling in museums, and having learned of Little Green Pig's creative writing work with young people, that seemed to be a very good fit for this idea of how do we recreate the space of Preston Manor and actually fill it with other people's stories.
So that's 5 for me, 23, 1, 2, 1, I win. Damnation. That was a whole bloody good eye for that was, down the drain. And I've been a little shy recently.
Just coming into Preston Manor has been a really great experience for the young people. I think it has a very special atmosphere in this house, and it just feels like stories are coming out of the walls here, and I think the young people have really picked up on that, and their imaginations have just really been fired up, I think, by the space.
With all her wealth, surely she can spare a few priceless objects. Swiftly, I take a handful and leave the room, a bitter aftertaste festering in my mouth.
I thought it'd be a good idea to have a kind of overarching narrative, and we came up with the idea of a murder mystery. And with the young people, we've created 6 characters and a plot where the user on the website is going to have to work out who's killed Elizabeth Frankson Yu. Each young person is creating 2 stories inspired by objects in particular rooms, and each story will give a clue for the user to work out who's the murderer.
It's got a bowl on it, a gorgeous ornamental bowl painted with trees and bearded men riding draconic horses. Charlotte gave it to us actually, a few years ago when she got back from the east or the south, or one of those places the young feel the need to go to on frivolous travelling trips nowadays.
Preston Manor is a fascinating building. What we often find is that when visitors come to the manor, they're hugely struck by the sense of space here and the atmosphere. And that's something that's actually quite difficult to convey in media such as photography and film. And it was really this idea that sort of began to lend itself to the idea of, well, how do we create a virtual space of the manor that people can explore?
Well, one of the key things when we first started meeting with Kevin was the discussion about how we could actually capture a space in a non-typical way. When you take traditional photography, it's very hard to kind of explain and show how big or glorious a space is. So what we wanted to do was to use still imagery, which very wide angle on a fisheye camera, to take multiple photos throughout the room and stitch these together so that the visitor on a typically flat environment would actually be thrown into the centre of these rooms.
It sounds like that of a large clockwork object, clanking and crashing in perfect unison. Mary is using one of the rust-ridden mangles. She normally acts like a butterfly, light, dainty, beautiful, but she is in fact brutal, like that of a bear, wild, ferocious and cruel.
I think it's really important to use the house in a creative way, and that's the real fun side of this job, is looking at the histories of the house and working out ways that we can create something different and interesting to inspire visitors and hopefully encourage them to visit Preston Manor and learn about the house in interesting, different ways.
We've been very careful to make sure that the young people see this as being a co-production. They can see that it's not just an outlet for their creative writing, important though that is, but they're actually part of a much bigger production. And the overall purpose of the website is really something I hope that is not just simply by and for young people. It's actually something that I hope to be one of the main means of promoting Preston Manor online.